Matt and Luke's Sci-Fi Sanctuary.
The year is 3013. The galaxy is scintillating in the mellow light. Two galactic pilgrims seek out vistas in the samurai future to bring forth the unity of the cosmic shaman. Opening the door of the pantheon of mystics, the evil sorcerer wizard powers the engine of science, seeking to forever alter the sacred balance, travelling on effervescent balls of summer fire.
This week, Star Trek V, The Final Frontier.
In the year 3013, the galaxy was scintillating in the mellow light.
You stole it. You stole it. You hear it every week, but you stole it. Yes. The year for this one, it's always 3013 in our universe, but it's
like a nexus point in time, I guess.
It's a nexus point in time, yeah. So it's 1989 from where we're looking now. And this film is it's yet another Star Trek, the one people love, Star Trek V, The Final Frontier.
I'm Luke.
I am Matt.
Welcome to our Sci-Fi Sanctuary.
I just let you finish it, right?
Yep, and we've got a guest in the sanctuary with us tonight.
Yeah, kind of a guest. You hear him every week. It's the fellow that I do music with and talks about the scintillating galaxies. It is Roving Sage Media. See, I can screw up my pronunciation, my own shit. Right?
No worries.
Hi, Scott Atkinson.
Oh, greetings, gentlemen, all good people of the galaxy and fellow listeners.
Right. Oh, and here comes a bullet train, Shinkansen, right?
Yeah. Sounds very lethal. Bullet train.
Man, lethality is only like a mere few meters away.
Train.
Phaser train. That's the future. It replaces the maglevs.
Yeah.
But getting into it, I guess with this film, I'll start off with where I first saw it. I saw it before opening night, actually, now that I think about it. I remember because I think my dad and I were like driving by and it's like, oh, they're showing Star Trek V now. Like it was like a day or a week earlier, but it was definitely earlier. And we were like, yay, we get in. And I actually got pre-releases of a few Star Treks at this point. But we came out hating it, as I guess people did in 1989. And I'll get to the reasons why. Since that time, I guess you start rewatching the other ones so much that you start gravitating towards 5, and then you kind of, I think we might all like this one here.
I definitely do.
Yeah, I loved it. I don't know what it says about my taste, but I found it quite, actually very thought-provoking, and some of the criticisms about the, for example, the production and so on, just seemed like small beer to me. Actually, I felt philosophically it was quite fascinating. So.
Yeah, and
there's the bullet train going the other way.
Yeah, that's the other bullet train. Anyway,
everyone's in a hurry tonight.
Yeah,
dear.
Is this one of your like teenage DVD rentals?
Yeah. I didn't really see, apart from what I'd caught on TV, I didn't properly watch the Trek films until I bought them myself with my first job. So when I saw Star Trek V, it was already in my head, oh, this is the one everyone hates. So I went in, and of course I spotted some things which, were not great. But overall, I was like, that was a fantastic romp. I enjoyed that. And then going back, I think this is only the second time I watched it, was when I watched it for this podcast to start this week. And it's fantastic.
Yeah.
There's one element which I do think is utter horseshit, but it's also, that problem is there in 1, 2, and 3. So we'll get to that in a bit.
Okay, we'll get to it. Scott, when did you first do the Lombardo with this? Was it me giving you the DVD?
Actually, it was, yes, I think with yourself, when we were catching up here in Japan, imbibing as we do in a few well-placed spirits, and we put that one into the DVD player at the time. And in my own altered state, I just found it fascinating. It was quite, it was a great journey, or as Luke said, a good romp. I could definitely attest to that.
So before we get to the story, I guess I'll lay down what I think is the utter hatred of this film. And I might have even mentioned a little bit before, but this is the first movie that just had Captain Kirk in place of the Enterprise, ready to go on an adventure. And people, I guess, kind of wanted a standard adventure, and they got like one of the weird third season TOS episodes instead. Like a good weird third season TOS episode, but one of those.
I guess I can see that.
I mean, you have the entire crew like turning on them, you know. Nimbus 3, I mean, I like Nimbus 3, it's cool, but it seems kind of like small stakes, you know, compared to the Earth is about to get destroyed in 4 and, you know, Khan and all that.
I don't know. The center of the galaxy and meeting God is pretty high stakes. But like you say, it's the weird TOS kind of high stakes.
Yeah, yeah.
The episodes where they meet some all-powerful being never feel like the high stakes episodes.
Right.
Because you know that it's just going to be solved by some bullshit.
Which is exactly what happens here. So
Yeah.
it's a movie which is solved by bullshit. But I don't know. It's pretty enjoyable bullshit in the end.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, I think the only part I found a little bit disconcerting was actually in the sort of the Star Wars-esque cantina, where Captain Kirk was assailed by sort of a cat lady, and she was disposed of quite. I felt with a fair bit of violence, and I felt that was just a little bit. It was a little bit too harsh for the mood of the general Star Trek. So.
She was pretty feral, to be fair.
Also, the move that Kirk just took her out with didn't look like it would have done much damage. He just sort of threw her onto the bed like he was going to, like, you know, have his way with her.
Maybe that's what you had the problem with.
No resurfacing. Maybe it's just the empathic part of me, but I did find that quite... yeah, and then mentioning like whipping the ship into shape. So Uhura was saying, "I know you'll whip her into shape, Scotty. You always do." And my name being Scott, that's not my thing. Just to put it out there, but
Like, I guess the thing that does still bug me is just that Scotty head bump. It's just so stupid.
So that... I mean, are we just getting into it now? My big issue with the whole thing is that Shatner clearly has zero respect for anyone apart from him and Spock.
McCoy gets some
McCoy
moments.
gets... Yeah, McCoy. But yeah, this one is like the big three and others.
Yeah.
And we just had 4, which really doesn't do that. So it just feels like a step back to Kirk, Spock, and McCoy are the main characters. Everyone else is a one-dimensional. They're there to do their job.
Well, that's where it comes across as a quite TOS, I think.
Yeah, it does. And because, like, 1, the supporting cast are barely in it. 2, they're barely in it. It's only that we have, like, 3 and 4 where they are characters. And now we're back to them not being characters.
Right.
And they're just not treated with much respect. Like Uhura having to... Well,
But-
having to do that dance, and then also the bit with, like, trying to speak Klingon. You got Scotty with the head bump. Chekhov and Sulu are just, like, joke
There.
characters. Lost at the start, and then...
But I guess the reason I was getting to that is just to, like, weirdly, I think we're mostly going to have a love fest on this one. So I thought we'd just get out all the, just, you know, have a good crap on the bad stuff.
Before I watched it, and when I was, like, just hearing other people's hate, I had the impression that they get to the center of the galaxy and literally meet the Abrahamic God.
Oh,
So I was like, yeah, that sounds like the shittest film ever. Shatner ruined Star Trek.
Oh, sorry. I was actually thinking of the T. I thought you crossed wires
All
with
right.
the TOS where Abraham Lincoln's like in space.
No,
or
I
whatever.
mean the God of the Christians, the Jews, and the
Yeah,
Muslims, the Abrahamic God.
Like I told you, I got my wires crossed there.
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
My idea is cool too.
And I was like, yeah, okay, if that was the case, it would. But it's not. It's classic Star Trek energy being pretending to be God shit.
Right.
Why do people have a problem with it this time and not the million other times? Yeah. People love Q. If it had been Q there, you know.
We just got some recent Q again, by the way.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're doing a first on this podcast. I've decided to task Scott with actually telling us the story of Star Trek V.
Did you not get Andrew to do Reanimator?
No, I did.
Oh, no, I did Reanimator, didn't I?
You did Reanimator.
Oh, yeah. So it
So
is.
this is first. This is
Yeah,
first.
first time it's not me or you.
That's right. So Scott,
Good,
take it
so-
away.
cooked up a little preamble there.
Away from grey seas to roam, isotopes echoing, fields and rice fields and verdant patches of forests. No sea on frothy foam a shadowing, but have you beheld in Rebirth Heartbeat, civilization's archipelagos of Kyoto?
A tale as old as time. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Planet Nimbus 3, a place of galactic peace, is a wasteland. Gales rake the dust bowl as a weary paisano is boring for water, with futility, into the alkali dust, as an apocalyptic figure on horseback barrels down on him. A dialogue ensues between the two in this grit-blasted netherworld. "Let us explore pain together," the sagely horseman claims. "Share your pain with me." Instant healing and a tent revival conversion later, the dirt farmer gushes. "How can I ever repay you for this miracle?" His pain all gone. Exposing from his hood telltale ears hinting his origins, the man attests to the horseman, "You're a Vulcan," and cue the trippy wizard Gandalf meets Hobbit laughter. Good stuff. Meanwhile, on shore leave, the crew of the newly commissioned USS Enterprise are in Yosemite. For Captain Kirk, Spock and McCoy, this consists of shenanigans around a rock face and indulging in explosive combinations of bourbon and beans by a campfire, singing "Row, row, row your boat" before duty calls. While, at this cat house cantina in the ironically named Paradise City, the Romulan, Earthling, and Klingon ambassadors are meeting, and the jadedness of the Earthling and Klingon are as palpable as the grog that flows. Only the Romulan ambassador emanates any sort of spiritually evolved vibe. A right kerfuffle is going on outside, as that sagely warrior on horseback is leading a ragtag horde to storm the gates of civilization, flawed as it is. One ambassador beams out an emergency call for help before they are seized as hostages. The horseman is soon revealed to be Sybok, the half-brother of Spock. It's a small galaxy after all, who is relying on the fact that the ambassadors' governments will try to rescue them by starship. And Sybok is in need of just that, the way a televangelist is in dire need of a private jet. At the same time, Starfleet Command directs Captain Kirk to conduct the rescue of the ambassadors held hostage. Shore leave is over for now. Yet, the Enterprise is in a woeful state of repair, with less than a skeleton crew, Scotty laments to Uhura just as they receive a red alert about Nimbus 3 being a priority 7 in the neutral zone. Klingon Captain Kla is a wild card, fly in the ointment and counterpoint to the peaceful intentions of Starfleet Command, an unscrupulous commander sallying forth to make a name for himself. Strutting arms akimbo, alpha masculine, he's on the hunt for space garbage that shoots back, a sort of U-boat captain hot on the heels for bigger prey, juicier than that NASA Pioneer 10 space probe he just blew to bits. For the Enterprise, the Galileo shuttlecraft is able to land on Nimbus 3 covertly, and upon the dunes at night, the good crew is able to overpower an enemy outpost to steal their horses, thanks to Uhura's svelte dancing atop a sand dune behind the moons, so to speak. Charging into Paradise City, Spock scans for the hostages held in the Catty Cat House Cantina. Inside, the ambassador hostages pull guns on Kirk, the people he was going to save. Stockholm Syndrome this ain't. They've been brainwashed. Spock and Sybok meet, but Spock refuses to change sides. "You are under arrest for 17 violations of the Neutral Zone Treaty," to a gale of laughter. Sybok then announces his plans. "I must have your starship," namely, for a journey to the center of the galaxy to the planet of Shakkari. Spock and Kirk are impervious, unlike the others, to the mind-meld deception of Sybok, and Sybok knows Kirk is necessary to pilot the Enterprise onto Shakkari. With Kla in pursuit, the starship heads into the Great Barrier to land, via shuttlecraft, onto a desolate planet, just like Nimbus 3. Sybok summons the Creator, and a Zeus-like patriarch demands to know how he breached the barrier, and that the starship be fetched for him. Almost a Zen koan for Kirk, he asks, "What does God need with a starship?" Good question. The spell is broken, and it's evident this Creator was a creature, and the planet is its prison. Sybok realizes he's been duped and dies at its hands, allowing the others to escape. Spock and McCoy beam back while Kla wails on the Enterprise. Back on the planet, the beastie tries to kill Kirk before it's given some Captain Kla grape shot. Kirk beams aboard the Klingon ship where Spock is waiting in time for a cocktail hour, and finally Captain Kirk, Spock and McCoy can resume shore leave in greater harmony.
A raindrop in the desert, reflection of pines, on depths vomited by a relentless fjord, yet now arisen to and groovied skies are grinning. Descent into the tiger's nest, floating on serene eddies, and of crystal sunsets intertwining, assemble in this droning sitar-like mind. Psychic harmonizing of Shahrazad, imprints on the tidal beaches, shellfish octopus swirling coastal reaches, eternal tribal rhythm of waters, susurrating into the mandalas of evermore.
So, we can talk a little bit about the actors here. I mean, I think we've basically covered them pretty heavily.
Yeah. Well, in recording terms, this is our 6th Star Trek because we did 5 and 6 out of order.
So let's go with the guest stars, I guess. David Warner's here. That's very cool.
Yeah.
He doesn't get a good role in this one, but he gets good roles in other Trek.
Through his, smarm, he makes a thankless role pretty good.
And is he hooking up with a Romulan?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Sure. And that...
It looked like it, yes. I did notice that.
This is going to make me look like an idiot because in Star Trek 6 I say, oh, is this the first Romulan in the films?
It's hard to pick her up as a Romulan.
Yeah, she's barely a Romulan.
Well, it's easier to pick her up, excuse me, but yeah, she doesn't.
All right. Maybe he's just an absolute stud.
Anyway, it's not a big Romulan presence. Obviously, if you're going to have the planet of Eternal Peace or Galactic Peace,
you'd
need to have a Romulan representative there.
If they made this in TNG, I guess you'd have to have a Cardassian there as well.
Right.
Yeah, she did definitely exude quite a bit of spirituality. The other two, like the Klingon and the Earthling, naturally seem quite jaded down on Paradise City. So
take me down to the Paradise City.
Yeah.
Words by W. Axl Rose. Yeah. So the other big actor here is Larry Lookinbill. They wanted Sean Connery, but they weren't going to get Sean Connery.
Oh, he does look like they wanted Sean Connery and didn't get Sean Connery.
Shakari.
Yeah.
They really want him.
Yeah. He just struck me as the classic, New Age guru of the 90s with all the right sort of monikers and sort of, drop of the hat mantras to throw out there, but to captivate everybody.
I've recently fallen into the rabbit hole of listening to the entire oeuvre of the QAnon Anonymous podcast. And they get into a lot of cult leaders, cult groups, and it's terrifying how easily these people can do exactly what Cyborg does.
Yeah.
And just twist all these innocent minds into being their followers and doing heinous things.
I guess it threw me off watching this as a kid, just how easily all our old stalwarts of the Enterprise crew were turned over. He's
doing some kind of psychic thing. So you could say they're being mind controlled, whatever. But he's also you don't need a psychic thing to, maybe if you want to get Uhura and Sulu, you do. But for him to have that following, a lot of people are doing it in our world with no psychic powers whatsoever.
Exactly. But
I listened to another cult podcast.
Right. I don't control minds, I free them.
So it all dovetails nicely.
But yeah, apparently Shatner spotted this guy on PBS or something, and just was like, I discovered a new genius. And this is all he really did to speak of. But he's good. I like him. He's good in this movie.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant he discovered a cult leader on a public TV.
No, he discovered Larry Lookinbill.
That's my villain. Okay. Yeah, because his performance and his position in the film makes you think of he's the huge guest star they got in. But then he's not really anybody.
No, he's just the guy Shatner really liked. There's a bit of that ego creeping in, I guess.
But I prefer that to if he had been a stunt casting. He's not like Benedict Cumberbatch.
I mean, he says some great metaphysical stuff. Yeah. There's one thing I really like what Cyborg said. I think when the Klingons were attacking the ship under Kla, he said, "Do what you must, but no more." I mean, that's a great little mantra to live by if one must. Yeah. I thought that was pretty neat. I don't need my pain healed.
Well, you don't until you meet Cybok. The main thing is we don't trust a laughing Vulcan. There's nothing scarier than a laughing Vulcan.
Right. What's especially interesting is he is not part human and Spock is.
Yeah. Remember, Romulans and Vulcans come from the same blood, so you can cut out that and
yeah. Well, that's one of my favorite lines from the Kelvin Star Trek film, actually, where Sarek says to Spock, emotions run deeper in us than they do in the humans. We just have to control them. Because, yeah, Vulcans are not without emotion. They just don't obey it.
I think also one interesting thing Cyborg said, he goes, let us explore pain together. So it's actually appealing to the baser senses of people. So there's something very primal and catchy about it. But actually, the thing, if you want to really reach out to people, appealing to their sense of higher purpose or altruism. But I think appealing to like the lower chakras or the basal instincts.
That's why he lost to Starfleet, who do appeal to the purely intellectual higher calling. That's why Spock and Kirk were going to win all along.
Yeah, Starfleet, I guess they're not supposed to let their ego get in the way too much, but before we let go of the actors and the characters...
Let's talk about someone whose ego did get in the way.
Did it, though?
Well, like the big issue we had at the start, I think that is all down to Shatner's ego.
Yeah,
I'm the star, this is a film about me, right?
But otherwise, he did... Roddenberry was not really hand on the tiller at this point at all with the movies. I guess the TV show is still a little bit. But, this is a very Star Trek message and thought in the end. Like you said, you thought it was actually going to be God, but it's no, it's actually the trope done on the big screen in a weird way.
The overall shape and ideas of the film, I think, are all great. I love the Planet of Galactic Peace. I love the concept of this, like, laughing Vulcan villain. I love going to the center of the galaxy and discovering what's there and is it God or something. It's just the minute-to-minute execution. Shatner is more the star than I think he's ever been. Or maybe will ever be again in this one. Like, at the start, Captain Kirk is climbing the mountain.
Yes, why does he climb the mountain?
Makes love to the mountain.
Yeah.
He envelops that mountain.
Oh dear, yeah. The mountain of love, yeah.
So Nimoy is just kind of like, he's kind of playing wingman, I guess.
This is the purest, which I think is the case in the show as well, where it stars Kirk and then Nimoy and Kelly are the mind and the heart.
Yeah, it's a mythos, pathos logo.
Yeah, they're like the devil and angel sat on his shoulder, except instead of a devil and an angel, they're just,
These two dudes.
I recently said to Matty and Rob at work that's how I see them. Matty is my McCoy and Rob is my Spock. And the beauty of it is their advice cancels each other out and I can just do what I wanted to do anyway.
There you go. So, D. Kelly definitely gets a pretty intense scene where his pain is like euthanizing his father. So how do we feel about that in McCoy's character? It's a big wrinkle,
but it makes a lot of sense for his characterization, right? And how he's such a driven doctor who's desperate to save everyone. It's very comic book one event origin stuff.
Yeah,
but if you're gonna do that, it's a good one.
But then they definitely give him a ball kick immediately after, shortly after the cure was devised. Although he really wasn't looking so good in that bed.
Yeah, it's the ultimate, question at times, so you've got the freight train coming and, with someone you love and what do? Do you choose to, step in and act, spare them from their pain or
share their pain?
Just let things, work out. Maybe according to nature.
The only other thing that I really feel the need to address actor character-wise is... I thought you might mind read my thought there.
No.
Nope, the fan dance.
I already mentioned it.
Yeah.
You know what?
She's looking she works it.
She's looking aight.
It was a bad idea, but she works it pretty well.
Groovy.
Yeah.
For someone with white in their hair.
Whose idea do you think it was? Whose idea was it?
Probably... I assumed every idea was Shatner. Well, she wanted to sing in the movie. Did she want to sing naked? I don't know, but...
Because it feels like if it's 100% Shatner's idea, is really fucked up.
Yeah.
If it's like Nichelle Nichols is like, I want a sexy scene in this one. I want to be, I think I've done enough to be a sensible woman in a position of power. Now I want to be sexy.
That could be the case.
Then I'm 100% behind it.
I'm sure she wanted to do the singing.
Oh, yeah,
That's 100% sure, because she found a few spots in TOS do that. And in the movies, this was the first time, so...
Well, yeah, her singing with Spock's harp is the reason they have a, like, love story in Kelvin, basically.
It was funny, too, like, during that scene, somebody on the... At the enemy's encampment, they dropped the D-bomb twice. You know, it's like, damn. And I thought that was quite funny. And when they're apprehended right at the top of the dunes by, you know, this is Spock and McCoy, or Kirk. Somebody else goes, damn. Yeah, this was really funny. It seemed a little bit a little bit un-SF-like in the year. Like, what year is it? Like 8154 or something like that in the future. You know, people are still saying damn. 8454 in January. Yeah.
It's not the Foundation.
I kind of like that.
Anyway, yeah, I guess my thought on that is it does work, but it's a weird cast. But sure, it works, so cool. Stunt casting your cast, I guess?
Yeah.
Starbursts in the heart of the lightning illuminates my web of tantric philosophy. By the light of 1 trillion lunar eclipses broadens the mythology of this perennial biography. Behind sand isles of glitter, a sulphuric wilderness, I open my eyes and mind to see holes in the vastness. To the summit of...
I watched Siskel and Ebert's review about Star Trek V, and they lambasted it. They were pretty harsh, but I didn't have the sentiment that they did at all. I can understand what they were saying, but maybe they were true about everyone is getting sloshed in this film. Maybe they've seen the script. I thought the script was fine, but getting sloshed, yeah.
Well, one weird thing, this is 1989, right? We were just talking Dick Tracy was 1990. It was kind of a slow year.
Yeah.
1989 was hot and heavy. Ghostbusters 2, Last Crusade. Batman. Several other movies Star Trek 5. But the whole point is, you know, Star Trek movies up to this point had like ILM doing their effects. Like, they had the top guys. And they were busy this year. So the effects, you know, Shatner in his really just working out the kinks, I guess, in the end. But it was like, yes, because the second season Next Gen got screwed by that. But the effects in this movie was basically done by a guy that was talking a lot of shit from his garage in New Jersey.
When watching it, I was like, like these models are fine, but this stuff is not green screened in as nicely as it is in all the other films.
No, it's literally done in garage. I mean, I guess they got the official models.
Yeah.
He if nothing else, he was a pro with that, like you know, putting like cloudy stuff in water effects. That's quite nice here, but it's just like this weird analog clunky. But like I said, they're not good effects compared to the other big effects movies of this year. It's clunky as hell, but it's just the imagination. Like, the guy didn't have the resources. He might not quite have the talent, but it looks kind of cool in the end to me.
Yeah. So I remember thinking as I was watching it, though, the effects were not quite up to snuff. The cinematography, in terms of everything that's just physically in front of the camera, is fucking stunning in this film. Like, the mountain climbing scene looks beautiful. Like, everything on the Planet of Peace looked amazing. Like, that opening with, like, the desert and Cyborg riding out of the sand. That's, like, all-time, like, one of the all-time classic westerns. That's gorgeous stuff. So, like, Shatner does know what he's doing when he's, you know, with a camera.
In great part, they just ran out of money. The other big part of the design was the end was supposed to be like 8 times more epic. Though I do enjoy like a weird disembodied head chasing around the desert. That's cool.
I fucking love that.
But
it's like a video game boss.
Yeah.
It's like fighting Andros at the end of Star Fox.
It's like Zardos from the 70s, one which I definitely want to talk about at some point. But yeah, it was supposed to be like 8 large rock creatures, or like, you know, that weird stone.
Right, because didn't they reuse those rock creature effects for Galaxy Quest or something?
Well, they referenced them. They didn't reuse them, but
no, but yeah, I remember on a different podcast you mentioning like, oh yeah, those rock creatures are very explicitly based on ideas for something else.
Yeah, there's supposed to be like 8 of them in this movie, but that's why it's like have those like, you know.
But it has like the spires coming out of the ground and stuff.
Right, those were going to turn into the rock creatures. Yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, he was looking, but honestly, I kind of like the weird disembodied glowing head chasing him through the desert ending just as fine.
Yep.
And then the encounter with the Klingons. Again, it's totally weird looking with the compositing, but you make do with what you have.
Yeah.
And on Paradise City too, there's a few scenes there where all the buildings there have this blue aura. It's really cool. Yeah, I mean, if you just look at it at what it is for what it is, I think it's quite a good experience. It's not in a not judgmental way. It's not fantastic cinema, but it's a pretty groovy ride if you just allow yourself to be taken away by it. That's not the cyborg sense of the word, but just in your own sort of groove. Yeah.
Well, let's focus on what is the worst effect. Because I feel like I like most of these pretty well in the end.
There was nothing that took me out of enjoying the film.
I definitely noticed the shuttlecraft landing was pretty wonky, and then they used the same composite shot for landing on Nimbus 3 and the God Planet, which you wouldn't usually do in a major motion picture, but they did that here.
Yeah, I just remember... I don't remember a specific shot. I just remember looking at spaceships and thinking, like, I can kind of see the outline more than I can usually.
Yeah, Nimbus 3 and I guess Shakari seem to be the same place, like not Death Valley, but maybe Joshua Tree or somewhere.
Yeah, it was somewhere not too far from Hollywood.
Just with maybe different lenses used, but yeah, it's kind of maybe it's an apt metaphor because maybe that the heaven is promised is actually a hell. So
that shot of the God thing, which was actually the Roddenberry 70s movie pilot name, the God thing, but where the God thing is walking through with the visage of Cyborg, that shot actually creeps me out.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's a creepy shot.
If I want to be more optimistic to your point, Scott, it could be that heaven is just a place where we have to work towards peace.
Yeah, because I mean, maybe, I kind of think so too, like there's no quick fixes, it's not a wave of a wand or something like that. Actually, Kirk himself says, that pain can't be taken away with a magic wand. Yeah, so...
and I'll get into my thought on that in a bit. I don't know, are we ready to move on to philosophy stuff?
Let's philosophize, bitches.
Okay, let's clap it. Give a clap.
Are we doing that for all of them?
No, we didn't do it for the last one.
Pop!
We're good.
Burning pyres by Highland Crescent Lakes, doors conceal passages into archway complexities. Everything is a circular utopia amidst the baseline pathways, over cocktail carpets surfing on silvery mezcal. Into hives of...
Yeah, I could do with some of those... I could do an explosive combination of bourbon and beans.
Oh, okay. Oh, sure. Riff on that. Where are you going?
Matt, you're from the South. Do you have a beans recipe?
I don't personally have a beans recipe.
Your family has to have one, though, right?
I've eaten lots of baked beans. You know what? I was a Boy Scout. We went camping, and we definitely did our thing.
As I understood it, it was just like everyone in the South has an old family bean recipe.
Well, my family's from the Mid-Atlantic. They were transplants. But no. I mean,
Candace.
I was camping a lot, and we definitely worked on our beans. So I can be. We did not sit around and sing "Row, row, row your boat," but
that really annoys me because there's another verse, and they never get to the fun verse.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a weird thing. It's such a wretch scene when they start saying "Row, row, row, row your boat," and especially Dee can't sing, right? The other two can't either, but they at least put out albums, But I don't know.
Bilbo.
I think it's really fun.
That's just the worst song.
I love it.
I think it lightens up a lot of the melodrama and excess seriousness of hard sci-fi sometimes because
camaraderie-wise.
Yeah, because I think that's what took out some of the enjoyment of some of the mid-period or Star Wars for me. It just got too serious, and I think this was there's a lot of dad jokes and stuff in there, but I mean it's fun for what it is.
I think it's just
like life,
specifically the choice of row, row, row your boat. they act like it's something much more fun and wacky than it actually is.
It could have been just like good bourbon.
Yeah. No, but I mean, the film acts like...
I know, I enjoyed it.
Isn't it funny they're singing Row, Row, Row Your Boat? But, like, they should have been something like singing something really ribald and, you know...
One of you is giving you a problem with McCoy's bourbon explanation.
It wasn't me.
Scott, you had an issue with the bourbon?
Oh, yeah. So, I think there's one little thing, like, so... McCoy says, this is like Tennessee whiskey, and Kirk refers to it as bourbon and beans, but actually Tennessee whiskey is not bourbon. I think there's a different process used for it. Like technically, it's like Lincoln County process or something. It's like a way of filtering the corn mash or something. So forgive me for any minor infunctions with that one, but I think there is like there is a little bit of there actually is probably a big difference. But
no, I've had my tour of the Jack Daniel's distillery, like with an old man who seemed really drunk. It was fantastic.
That's the place to indulge the Cybok journey there.
Anytime I went to London, there would always be a huge poster in the underground for Jack Daniel's, telling the story of where it comes from, or whatever, and making it sound much more interesting than it is.
Hey, it was a pretty hip distillery. You should visit. It's a dry county. Interesting. You can't actually drink in the county.
In the county?
Yeah.
Like in your own home?
I mean, you can't buy.
Huh.
You go to the next county and buy it. But yeah, where were we? Oh yeah. Let's philosophize a little bit. So I think the issue with Cybok's quick fix is it's a quick fix, not a quick fix. It's actually a notable fix that you cannot make unless you make it yourself. Mm. I mean, that's the issue with Cybok. He's it might be a psychic trick. He might actually just be convincing people really well, but he's trying to engender a sea change within your soul that basically is, you have to do it yourself.
I feel like he's convinced himself that he's doing something much more spiritual and wholesome than he actually is. And really all he's doing is convincing people.
Again, common with the cult leader.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, at most, I think all the really great cult leaders believed their own bullshit by the end.
Oh, the really great cult leaders.
The ones who killed like 50, 60 people.
The ones that drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, I feel like all like important human growth, human breakthroughs comes from properly dealing with your pain and your struggles. Like, anyone who just tries to get away from that shit, bury it, it's gonna come back.
Well, that's the one of the key lines of the movie. I need my pain. Like, no, he doesn't, but he is right in putting forth that Cybok's not the guy that's going to get rid of it.
Yeah.
He would have to do that himself.
You don't have to keep your pain, but you have to, like, actually grow through it. You can't just bury it or forget it or switch it off.
But like Scott just said, Kirk anchors himself with the pain. Is that good? It's not good for him personally.
But I guess there'll be a time later to, like, like you guys said, to let it go. But yeah, it's because I guess if you don't anchor it down, like, the sort of the dirt farmer at the beginning, he sort of joins off on this quest, and it's a bit like I couldn't help thinking of the Children's Crusade back in the day, and it's just so messed up. Like, kids being led off by sort of a Pied Piper. I'm sure it's a bit more complex than that, but I mean, they become a means to an end for some megalomaniac.
Well, they tried it again with World War I.
Oh, there's no end to it. I mean, I think one difference with Cybok was he wasn't as malignant as he could have been. Like in the 20th century or 21st century, unfortunately, we've got characters on stage that have different varying degrees of that sort of psychopathy or disorder.
Well, that's the thing. Cybok is he's likable enough. He's notable enough that this is the only thing he's in. Like, I mean, come on, Spock has a sister now, and no one ever mentions Cybok anymore.
I thought that.
Yeah. It's I guess what I felt it's a really ancient story. It's kind of like a failed quest of for Cybok, so with misguided idealism. So I don't think he's a psychopath, but
No, yeah, it reminds me of like a Holy Grail quest or something. And you know, some pretty shitty things were done to try and find the Holy Grail.
Yeah, I think the one thing that really shone through, not to sound cheesy, but was like definitely the bonds of friendship. But maybe it's not cheesy. It's like this really connects us to our experience in this reality for the moment, and maybe
The real way to deal with pain is to share it with someone.
Well, that's the thing with this film. It really is the best, look into the Kirk, Spock, McCoy relationship at the expense of the rest of the cast, as you mentioned. But it really does, the movies kind of just have them out doing their thing, even in 6. The show, we got like the Tholian web where like we see what happens when Kirk is not in their little mixture. And this one really just goes into like why it's so important. Like when the entire crew is basically, brainwashed.
But those three are.
They still kind of, like that, it holds true. And so Kirk doesn't need his pain, he needs his friendship, he needs to trust other people.
But going back to the like needing your pain thing, the place I most often see that argument is with artists. Like, oh yeah, George Lucas only made good stuff back when he was poor and he had something to write about, or but would Kurt Cobain have made such great music if he wasn't living through his pain?
I wonder if you need pressure, not pain. I find myself, when I do artistic things, being way more prolific when I don't actually have time to do it.
My best stuff is with like, it has to be if there's too much pressure, I shut down and can't do it. It has to be like, just like a deadline is all I need. That's why I'm so much better at doing these kind of podcasts and videos and stuff than doing like some big project. Because it's like, well, I know I need to make this 10 minutes of content in the next week.
No, this morning I was like, I have 45 minutes before I need to leave. I got 15 minutes to do this, 15 minutes to do this, 15 minutes to do this. All of those, it probably would have been better to have more than 15 minutes, but I just bang, bang, bang,
I think people they make the mistake of equating artists needs pain with artists need passion. And of course, when you are a struggling, starving artist, you must have passion because that's the only reason you're doing your art. When you're doing the art because it makes you millions of dollars, maybe you don't have passion for it anymore.
Because I guess also, like, sorry, Matt, just very quick, with the opening scene, like the people on Nimbus 3, so they were there for like a dream, like, this idealistic place, which sounds good on paper. But I guess, they kind of, hoped somebody would carry them through. So maybe this is actually, and it doesn't work from their experience, but maybe we, like you guys said, we have to do it ourselves. It comes from within. It's you just can't rest on the back of somebody else. So there's no real kind of, other people can guide you, but you can't put your spiritual evolution in their hands because that would be a big mistake.
Does anyone want to know what happens to Nimbus 3, like if we go ahead with novels? Because this movie's already kind of not considered canon, so it's a novel.
Okay.
I mentioned, actually in Star Trek 4, I'd read the Picard novel,
right,
which builds up to the Picard series. In that, there's actually like a bit of a kerfuffle in Nimbus 3, where the Romulans basically come down and massacre everyone, and Picard has to let it happen because it would just be politically like too intense for him not to do that. So that's one of the reasons Raffi becomes so pissed at Picard, because he let this massacre happen on Nimbus 3.
Huh.
So just kind of, that Planet Galactic peace just keeps getting worse and worse in the end.
See, I kind of like it to just work out.
It does not work out.
You know
Nimbus
what
3.
I would love? I like a Sim City type game where you just build Nimbus 3. Wouldn't that be great?
I don't know. It might get depressing when everyone.
Well, if they make it like that. If they just let you have some peace. But I guess what all of our points are kind of building to is that no one can give you the answers to these spiritual questions. That's why I don't like cults, and it's why I don't like organized religion. It's the same thing. Christianity, Islam, Judaism, all of it, they're just cults. The answers are not in a book, and they're not coming from anyone but yourself.
Yeah.
It's worth discussing. It's worth talking about these spiritual things, but no one's going to give you the answers.
I think you can integrate them like in a healthy way.
Yeah.
It's you need the heart and the mind working together.
Well, and that's back to your Spock and McCoy, right?
Or I was going Metropolis there.
Yeah, the archetypes. Yeah, exactly. Well, one thing I had an interesting just because I've gone down a few rabbit holes in the past, just was thinking the need for a starship, like going from 3D into the next dimension or, parallel dimensions, was a little bit like Jack Parsons, the with the Jet Propulsion Laboratories. He was working with Aleister Crowley.
And Hubbard.
Yes, Hubbard, don't forget Hubbard. Yeah, to sort of break on through to the other side. Yeah, so...
What does God need with a starship?
No, that's not how you say it. It's, excuse me, what does God need with a starship?
Yeah,
it's got to be more sass. It's got to be more like...
Yeah, chalant, nonchalant.
It's like, it's Shatner at peak Karen.
I agree with you. I completely, yeah, you hit that perfect button. I did not.
Yep. Because, if the reason I love that line is because he doesn't overly dramatize it. Yeah. It's just like, gotcha.
Because one thing about Spock was he calls Sybok out about the pursuit of forbidden knowledge. And so maybe that would be like with maybe some people's pursuit of the occult, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. It's just occult just means hidden. So I'm not labeling it as bad or good, but there is some risks involved. So maybe it also refers to like, because maybe Spock's point of view is a little bit too conservative. So maybe there's a happy medium somewhere. But just wondering, it's like Sybok sort of got derailed earlier on by not having a solid basis of reason.
His father was Sarek. That's the problem.
Yeah. One thing I really love about that is, of course, at first they're trying to stop Sarek commandeering their ship, but I feel like there's a point where
Sybok.
Sybok. There's a point where once it's happening, Kirk's just like, well, okay, I guess I'm along for the adventure. I'm going to enjoy it.
Well, he gets command to do the adventure at least. I mean,
once they're going through the void, or going through the barrier, you can tell that at this point Kirk's like, I am kind of into this.
Yeah,
I'm doing some Star Trek now.
That's the thing with Sybok. He's not a screwed up soul. He's just a misguided soul.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's it. He's not. We talked about Star Trek 4, like, kind of doesn't have a villain. This one too, in a way, because Sybok is, the antagonist.
Oh, it's got the Klingons.
It does.
Who shouldn't even be here? It just jumbles up the juice.
That's just because they had like a 2, 3, 4 felt like an ongoing series, and they wanted to make it feel like it was the next part of that. And of course 6 did conclude all of the Klingon stuff, so I kind of see why they were there a bit. But you already had a Klingon ambassador on the planet of Peace. You didn't need a spaceship full of metalheads trying to get Kirk.
And just showing up at like the most annoying times
and then
possible.
Having like sorry, Mr. Kirk, I won't do it again.
Not in front of the Klingons.
That was great.
Yeah. There's another good line too, like, I think, like Sybok just got off the ship on, Shakari and is just looking around at this really, pastel washed kind of bleak landscape. He's got the land, the sky, just as I knew it would be. And the other's thinking, Jesus, yeah. One day, my son, this will all be yours.
Desert.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, the land, the sky, just as I knew it would be. They are there.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a land and sky you never knew before.
Yeah, I've got to try using that on my coworkers here in Tokyo. Yeah, the buildings, the crows. Eden is here. Yeah.
Tomorrow's the time to start.
That's right. Become my own Sybok. Yeah. Yeah, I think you guys up in the mountains got a better chance of it.
The problem is, you do that in Japan, people would agree.
We become our own Cybox. This is only advice if you're living in Japan.
I mean, I do 100% get the I'm going to climb it because it's there mentality.
So
that's most weekends for me.
Yeah. So, Scott, I told you I was going to completely derail you, which I think we managed to do pretty well. Are there any major other, points you had on your thunker?
Yeah, I just think the issue of friendship, like the mateship, really insulates people from the manipulations or the machinations that I guess some populist leaders might have, or some wolves in sheep's clothing.
That's a huge real world issue. You look at these hate groups, online groups, anything, the number one factor that drives people to them is just loneliness. You find a group of people who kind of agree with you online, and you're like, oh, I've got friends now. And then they start leaning a bit further to the right than you'd like. You're like, well, I'll go along with it because I've got friends now. And eventually it's like, well, I'm a Nazi, but at least I've got friends now with the other Nazis.
Nazi with friends.
It's true, though. And that's the best way to get people out of those hate groups is just to show them, like there are other people who can care about you. These aren't the only people in the world who will ever accept
you put a neo-Nazi and a Jewish dude in a room and force them to have a conversation, and they're probably going to get along.
I listened to a podcast, they're interviewing a guy who left a neo-Nazi group and now is the expert in getting people out of those groups. And that's one of the main things he does. Sits them down with one of the people they think they hate.
Yeah. I mean, I think fighting hate with hate, I mean,
Fight fire with fire.
Unfortunately, life is nasty sometimes. There is war and strife, but love is the way. Yeah.
Of course, if you meet a Nazi in the street, punch their lights out because they can't be allowed to spread their rhetoric. But, once you've dragged them into a dark alley, you can try and be their friend.
Be smart about it.
Well, more sincere than a cyborg mind meld, because that's pretty manipulative. So, I mean, I think...
Make Star Trek 6 double fucked.
I was
they make
about
a
to
big
say,
point of the
Spock's
being
mind
bad
melding is a little more hardcore in Cybox.
Because they make a whole point of he's bad for misusing the mind meld in this one. And then Spock goes and does it in the next one.
But at least he's making people happy.
Yeah.
Where he's definitely not making people happy in 6. I mean, Spock is not making people happy in 6.
But maybe, just very quickly, maybe consciousness has changed since this came out, because it's funny, all of us have watched it and we kind of dug the groove. I mean, it doesn't deserve, in my humble opinion, just the vitriol that it got when it came out. I mean, it's not wonderful, but I mean, there's some really good things. How about you guys?
Does it have that vitriol anymore? Everyone we've spoken to does seem to like it.
That's the thing I get. Like again, I hated it when I saw it the first day, or opening night, or pre-opening night. But yeah, we keep asking people, okay, we actually kind of like Star Trek 5.
Star Trek fans are the Nazis, and you need to sit them in a room with the Jew that is Star Trek 5.
It seems to be wrong. Oh, my new J-pop idea. I think I mentioned this to you. I think I might have mentioned it to Scott too. But my new idea for the J-pop boy band, Johnny's band, if you know J-pop, is going to be
accidentally racist.
Yes, thank you.
You told me this morning. You want to make a boy band whose whole thing is they say unintentionally racist. It's impossible, though. You can't create a group who are unintentionally racist because it's just intentionally. It was unintentionally.
Unintentionally, that's it. Yeah. Unintentionally racist.
But you're intentionally making them unintentionally racist.
I know, that's why it's so funny. It's not accident. It's unintentionally racist. That's
Listeners at home, if you don't understand the concept that Matt has, where he creates what he thinks would be a funny J-pop group, don't worry. You're just in the same boat as all of us who don't understand Matt's idea of jokes.
K-pop recently made the #1 spot in the States. People know this now.
No, I'm not saying they don't understand J-pop. I'm saying they don't understand your weird jokes of, I've come up with this idea for what would be an uncomfortable band to encounter.
But I think well-placed humor definitely can break the ice. I mean, people can maybe connect on human terms. I think politically, I think it's okay to disagree. I don't like the idea of agreeing with everyone because we'd become like Cybox crew. But I think if we can use humor to understand each other...
I do agree with you about that. The problem is a lot of people have co-opted that argument to say that, oh, it's fine to disagree on some things that it's really not. It's like, yeah, I can disagree with you of how we should approach economic and environmental issues. I can't disagree with you on whether black people are human. But the sort of the both sidesism has been taken really far these days.
Yeah. Maybe that's where Shatner it's like a time bomb. In 1999, it's like, what the fuck is this? And now it's like, maybe this film has a few more things to mention. Maybe Shatner's ego is ahead of its time, man. It's still an ego, but it did have something to say, which didn't make a whole lot of sense in Reagan 89. Well,
maybe you need an ego to think, oh, I'm the guy to ask these questions. Because, famously, Roddenberry has a huge ego.
I was about to say he had the same ego, didn't he?
But because of that ego, he felt like, well, I'm the guy to make, this vision of what a utopian future should look like. So maybe to create like great stories, you need to be egotistical enough to think you're the one to tell them.
Well, Nimoy made better films, right?
But he made
3 and 4
very
is better.
introspective, small human stories.
Right, but his main message was save the whales, where Shatner just went for like full on like the depths of philosophy, which is not a good idea, but you have to have the ego to do it, right?
Right, yeah. Like Nimoy was talented, but he was not ambitious enough to do something insane.
And speaking of books again, Shatner's gone like full on like fantastically insane with some of the novels as well. There's this thing where like Kirk is like brought back in like the Next Generation era. And
There's a whole series of that.
I didn't actually bother reading those.
The Shatnerverse.
The Shatnerverse, yes. I mean, it's named after him, and it's about Kirk.
How much did he write though?
Well, I like to think he had that bourbon or Tennessee whiskey, sat down here and just talked into a paper, and someone else made sense out of it.
Yeah, it's a salient point. Like, people still externalize God, and everyone has their viewpoints. But these movies, kind of spiritually, you could look at it as a useful tool too. To sort of, you can't really look for like an Eden outside. Everything's, the kingdom of heaven's within. So.
We're deep in space.
No, but the end of the film is
center of the galaxy.
Radiates in here.
Yeah.
Row your boat. That's the center of the universe, man.
Life is but a dream.
The people around you that that keep you balanced. We say, just a friend, but actually, we need to maybe reappraise who our friends are, and, value them, more than ever, because,
Well. I don't know. I guess we're winding down because it's maybe we need our 2012 awakening to have this movie make sense, man.
Well, maybe
cosmic thoughts, indeed.
Maybe we've all just turned weird living in Japan, and that's why we all like it.
Yeah, but again, we've talked to all the Americans that seem to like it too, and a few of the Brits too.
Well, I think like 2020 has definitely permanently altered people's brains. So.
Yeah, this is such a happy movie to watch now. But I liked it before 2020 as well. I think that it might have been the time I popped in with Scott, like after drinking too much, and that was maybe the first time I said, I think I like this movie.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the first time I watched it, I genuinely was like, this is not as bad as everyone said. And this time I watched it and I was like, oh, this is legit good.
It's got a good flow to it too, and it doesn't drag along in any place in particular.
Apart from
a few
motion
little
picture,
stops
do
and
any
stuff,
of them?
but it's not gruesome. Yeah.
3 a bit.
Yeah.
Do what?
Yeah.
1 and 3 are probably the only Star Trek films that drag.
Yeah, it
TOS
does not
films.
drag.
I haven't watched the TNG ones yet.
Okay. Oh, really?
Well, recently.
Oh, okay. They don't drag too much, but they make a few errors here and there. So, I guess we're bringing this into the space dock then. So, our podcast.
I had one more closing thought I wanted to give.
Oh, hit the closing thought. We got 14 minutes here.
Yeah.
12.
So I'm a big Digimon fan, and the argument you always get with Digimon fans is they're like, I hate it when it becomes the Matt and Ty show, which is basically saying I hate it when the show concentrates on its main characters because it has an ensemble cast, but it has 2 who are clearly the stars, right? And that's what the Star Trek thing is like. It is nice when it concentrates on everyone else. It does have 3 main characters, and it's okay to make films about them sometimes. Like we've all said, we don't like the Scotty head bump or the Uhura forgetting Klingon, but just sidelining them a bit is not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, I mean,
and that is this film's biggest sin, really. Everything else people complain, like the effects, they're not the best. They work.
I like
the
them.
plot's weird. That's a good thing in my book.
Yeah,
like it flows well, and the cinematography's great. So the only real only complaint I would genuinely give someone is, it is a bit shit how it treats the other cast. But there are other films about them.
It has a lot of uniform inconsistency.
Oh, really?
There's just all those weird away uniforms. There's ones for the shuttlecrafters. It's like the special captains. It doesn't matter.
They love showing off uniforms.
I'm just throwing out that the uniforms this movie look notably different than they do in the other ones. A lot less monster maroon.
Yeah.
But
I do like a bit of variety in my uniforms, though.
Yeah.
I like a different colour for each department. And
no,
stuff.
I actually kind of like seeing the different ones, but they weren't my favorites either. So.
What's been really bugging me recently with Star Trek? No one ever wears a spacesuit. Or any protective gear.
That's way too much. The animated series, they had those weird force field things.
Like, I was watching the one where Picard falls in love with that random science officer.
Right.
And she goes on that planet and nearly dies.
Right.
Because they were dealing with a firestorm and she just went down in a shirt. Don't you tell me the Enterprise doesn't have just some armor you can wear for that shit?
Well, you're reaching for the Kelvinverse there, Scott, Spock and his volcano.
Yeah, exactly. I know it's just because they can't afford that shit, but
Yeah.
when it becomes a plot thing, it's real dumb.
But yeah, anyway, our podcast.
You can find our podcast on Twitters at MLSFS We're on Facebook, just search Matt and Luke's Sci-Fi Sanctuary. And on your podcasting app of choice, give us a review or whatever if you want. I don't care.
Scott, creatively, what do you do on the net?
I'm just doing my thing. A little bit of songwriting, working with Matt, and hoping to put out a book by next year.
Dude, you're supposed to say a website. Okay. That's
Yes, yeah, but I'm still I'm on Australian time here, so Australian Japan time. Rowing my boat. Yeah.
Rowyourboat.com, rovingsagemedia.bandcamp.com is a place.
Yeah, there we
for
go.
that. And
row for your sage.
I don't know. Maybe we should do your Mario again.
Oh, yeah, if you like Mario, I've been reviewing every Mario game in 35 seconds each for the 35th anniversary. By the time you hear this, I'll probably be into the 3D ones. I don't know.
35 seconds. That's
Yep.
so short.
If you like how Matt looks, he does extremely graphic HD porn.
Which you can find at rovingsagemedia.bandcamp.com.
Catering to everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll thank you for joining us tonight, but I'd call you like every other night, so whatever.
Live long and prosper.
Word up.
Talk to you soon.
Yeah,
Take care,
Scott,
you guys.
you and the listeners at home can all please go and find your nearest mountain and climb it because it's there.
You got to make love that mountain.
Envelop that mountain.
Next week, when worlds collide.
Those on the path, remember the vow. Be aware and authentic to where you are now. Virile hides the marsh crocodile in veils of mystery. Peering into the moor, the souls do float. In gardens primal, behind the moat. High Zagros mountains, their snow melts fair. Blossoms in hanging gardens.
We're treading navigators. We're treading navigators.
Trade were navigators on Altair's celestial book. Deep space aviators launch from citadels in brave Kirkuk. The things of the soul, truth be all told, were never meant to ever be sold. See through impulse, question desire.
We're navigators. We're navigators.
Be the high priest and walk through the fire. Springs of fire and water to immerse and be clean. From the mire of dust, transcend from the dream.